say welcome to everyone. If we have not met before, or if you haven't joined a previous community hour, my name is Ann Sari. I am the Executive Director of Elevate User Community and wanted to welcome everyone to today's town hall, which is our last webinar of 2025. I serve on the board alongside two of our wonderful board members here today. Keith Bradley, who's VP of IT and Security with Nature Fresh Farms, and also Ian Jones, Cloud Infrastructure Product Owner with NatWest Group. So two of our board members here today, Keith is in Canada, Ian's from the UK. So they're here today to talk a bit about 2025 and looking forward 2026. And before I pass it off to them to get started, I did want to say we'd love to hear your feedback. We always ask for your feedback. Your feedback today will help us finalize our plans for 2026 and all of our different offerings that we're going to bring. So please share your feedback with us, participate in the polls, and of course, ask questions. So with that, I will pass it over to our lovely board hosts today, Keith and Ian, to get us started. So Keith, you want to kick us off here?
No. Thank you, Ann. So I just wanted to welcome everybody to our town hall. And I just wanted to really talk about it's always amazing how quickly December gets here every year and how quickly things just happen. But what an amazing year I think we had for events, and it's great to see such amazing membership growth that we've had this year. It always amazes me each year, how we grow and how we continue to change and evolve as a community. We had a great presence this year at DTW. It was the first time that we were Elevate, which was originally grew there, but was now a merger between the Dell Technology user community and Elevate, becoming one larger group to serve everything in the Dell ecosystem, from client peripherals right up to AI servers and all the fun stuff that Dell can provide for you. So it was an amazing event to see. It was an amazing transition to be part of, and it was great to see the members all engaging from different strategy and different sessions in there. And I just wanted to get Ian, you're from the Elevate side, I'm from the DTUG side. What was your perspective on the merger and the first event that we had at DTW?
I think it was really amazing how seamless that both user communities came together really. So it was pretty seamless when we go back to Dell Tech World. It felt like we've been together forever, so to speak. So that was really good. It it's also been really good to sort of engage with more members with much more diverse kind of user needs, if you like. So, you've got people on the Detox side, people on the Elevate side. They're on both communities now. Now they've got one place where they can talk. Sort of desktop or user and server, and like you say, AI and things like that. So yeah, it's been really good, and I think every single month we're just building upon that combined community. So it's been really good and really seamless.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me too, coming from the detox side, peripherals, stuff like that. I also found myself always divided, which really was why we started that, because I am in the server, I'm in peripherals, I'm a little bit of everything. And I found that now the members are able to find everything all in one spot, from, from the blogs, the webinars, and all that are all there. It just made it so much seamless to me. And, everybody has so many emails out there all the time talking about what's going on and what's happening. It's just so nice now to centralize everything there. The one thing that we brought from the detail was a trusted tester group, which was an amazing experience. We're always doing something new. It's always fun to get free swag once in a while from somebody, and it's one of the highlights of doing things. And I think that it's greater now. We have a much deeper resource to pull from that, and it's also great to just increase our awareness. And this year, some of the things that I did that was amazing and fun, and I know Ian, you did some, so I'd love to talk to you about that. But I did two, you know, free Dell Technology forums that allowed us to talk to users be a part of users and see things. I was in Toronto for an event, in New York for an event, and it was amazing to see and talk to the users and just bring that awareness out there. It was just a high energy event, something I really had fun for. And, we really wanted to increase our presence in Europe there now. And I know you had two ones. If you want to talk about how your experience was there, other than being up in front of the platform and making yourself look like the Elevate branded person there now, that which was amazing to see.
Yeah, yeah, it's like perfect camera angle. So yeah, it was so yeah, like Keith says, right, we're trying to grow our member base in Europe. We're very sort of very big in the US, not so much in Europe. So we're trying to sort of build there. We're trying to do more in-person events and things like that. So really trying to connect with members locally and more often. So the two events I did in Europe was Düsseldorf in Germany and in the Netherlands. So that so an sort of interesting experience in terms of our first one in Europe. In Düsseldorf, we engaged with quite a few members. So we had sort of 75 members that came to our stand, lots of free gifts and things like that. So that was really good. And it was interesting, some of the conversations that we were having. We were having conversations with people from that weren't Dell customers, that were prospects, and I found that quite interesting. Not really spoken to a prospect, because when you think about Dell Tech World, you're only really going there if you're a Dell customer, right? So we were always talking to Dell customers. So it was interesting to get that perspective, and almost getting someone on the start of their Dell journey, if you like, to connect with the community, because we've got such a sort of rich experience across our user base that we can share. So it was brilliant. And the Netherlands was a little bit bigger. We connected with, I think it was around over 200 people, I think. And that was great to see. And it was a great experience, connecting with people, and just talking. I've not really manned the stands before, so it was good just to have sort of off the cuff conversations with people around what they're doing and things like that, and sharing sort of my experience back with them. But I guess the other thing to think about with Dell Tech Forums, and this is just for the community here, is these are free events that Dell put on. So it really is a good experience to sort of go along and just get one day where you're just talking tech, and you're listening to new things coming out, maybe about AI. It's always a big topic. So it's well worth looking at some of those events near where you are. And then just thinking about events in general. Now, you did Ignite recently, didn't you, Keith? So do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Ignite was actually really exciting. It was a great event for Elevate to be a part of. And it was one of the first times we really did a non-Dell thing. And, you're talking about introducing to users that don't really just want, or just are just starting their Dell journey. That's what we really seen a lot of. We had a lot of board members there. We had people in the booth, and a lot of the conversations were, well, do you use Dell technology? And you're like, well, no. And then it really started that conversation of how to do things. And then, we had an amazing turnout for our Elevate event that we hosted at night, which was my highlight, because again, it comes back to, it's that amazing time to sit there and one-on-one connect with the community and talk to them, like, what problems are you having today? What are you running into? And one of the biggest things, what are you enjoying about you're doing in your thing? Like, I love what I do, and I love talking to the members, and I love finding out, like, what brings joy to them, and what are the things are they doing? So it makes those events so much more stronger and helps us start to build out, like, what are we going to do next year? Like, what webinars do we talk about? How do we start to do more things on demand? Because we just don't have our presence at live events, but we do a ton of live webinars on demand, like today, blogs. The community forum is always active on some announcement out there that people are talking about. So it's one of those things that you're always going to be there. So how do you find, Ian, like, for us communicating with them, like, what's your best part in that? How do you like to do that? And what do you want our members to come away with each time?
So, so I think having content available for you to sort of take it at your leisure is always good. Not everyone can join a webinar when it's running and things like that. So having sort of that rich kind of availability of previous webinars and sort of going back and sometimes going back to those webinars and actually reminding yourself of what was talked about, because you just can't remember. I can't remember everything. So it's always good to have that on demand. For me, I like to sort of, you know, get utilize webinars as and when I've got a problem. So sometimes, let's say a webinar comes up next month around, I don't know, Power Store, for example. Um, I'm not using Power Store today, but in 6 months' time, I could be using Power Store, and that webinar is going to be really good for me to then look at that particular time. So that's really it. It's like I can't attend all the webinars all the time, and I just find having that on sort of demand content is brilliant. Personally, I love the in-person events. I love to, really connect with the community and things like that, and actually hear sort of, in that kind of in that room, if you like, from some of the product owners, product managers at Dell or Intel or Microsoft. I find that's one of my favorite parts of the community, is that in-person event. How about yourself?
Yeah. For me, yeah, I'm a big one-on-one person, but I do struggle. The day is busy, the day struggles all the time. And I love being able to pull up a webinar about things 5 to 6 months later that we already talked about. I even love picking on one of our other board members, Todd, talking about, how to do um Pro Support Plus and how to do things like that, how to connect to peripherals and things like that. He's always engaging customers that way, and it makes it such a great thing to do. And it just adds to the depth of the community when you can go back and get things. And even the conversations I can have on the community makes it such a great thing. But again, I go back to I am an in-person person, but I need to have that depth for me as a professional to go back to it, you know.
And
So it's just an amazing feeling.
I think one of the beauties of the in-person events, right, is we're looking to expand that footprint in 2026, right? So we're, watch this space, more in-person events are coming for Elevate, hopefully, in 2026.
Yeah.
Um, so we've recently done an annual member survey. So I think one of the things that we relish from our community is that feedback. So all of the future content that we're going to have in 2026 really comes from users engaging with us and sharing, what they want to see. So would it, I think now's the time maybe for a poll question
Yeah,
to
that'd be
get
great.
the community
And
talking.
yeah, let's see what questions we have out there waiting for you. I mean, what was the first question? What was the most relevant in your professional needs? What content is most relevant in your professional needs in 2026? And that's a big one. I guess it's going to probably have somewhere in there. It's going to have AI in there because that doesn't seem to escape any poll or anything like
No,
that.
it's so big across server and desktop or client now, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's everywhere. So
yeah, yeah. And even that, like I'm seeing some come in. Even how does AI tie into security? How does all that do that? It's there's so many questions out there, and I never have enough time to learn everything, and that's the great thing about what we do as a community. We're out there to pull each other and show each other how to do things.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, oh, look at that! Look at the answers come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it looks
So is that
yeah,
still
looks
coming in? Still coming
yeah,
in?
wow, yeah. But it looks like new product releases, and that's always an exciting thing for me to see is, what is in store or what's going to come out. How do you, how do you use anything new and how is it going to impact my environment is always a core thing for me, especially on the infrastructure side. And even the little things like all no understanding the new deployment of the new laptops. That was a big with many webinars about how do you understand the transition to the new names, and
Yeah.
I still struggle with it sometimes.
Yeah, I guess they'll do make it a little bit easier for us with on the infrastructure side because everything's power something. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I
But
get my
it
power
doesn't.
scales, my power flexes mixed up all the time.
I do the similar. I do power scale and power store. Those are the two we have. And I said it's a power S, and support doesn't like that answer. It's they're like, it doesn't help me. So yeah, what
So,
else we got? Yeah,
oh, AI is the next one down. So yeah, as we predicted, a big
yeah,
theme for everyone.
yeah.
Um,
And
so it
then
looks like we got some private AI. So maybe people doing AI factories. So that's interesting to see.
yeah. What else is there? Leadership is there. That's always a concern. It shows. I am surprised security's down there, but it always seems to be a topic. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
uh,
yeah, I guess
you know,
security is just a topic across everything, though, isn't it? No matter what you're
yeah,
doing, whether you're doing AI or doing automation or doing stuff on the client side, you've always got to have that security in mind, no matter what you're doing, especially with
yeah,
the landscape we live in now.
yeah. It's one of those things that doesn't go away. I think I still think sometimes security just comes ingrained in it now. It's just part of the product suite. You know, how does it,
Yeah,
what security features does it have? It's almost its own life in each product.
yeah,
Yeah. And then maybe we'll move on to the next one. The new member dashboard. With the launch of our community too, when we launched our the joint effort of everything, we rebuilt the website, which was an amazing thing to see. The work that came in the background to make sure there, and it looks like people are very happy and somewhat happy with how things are together. I'd love to know some of the somewhat people maybe can respond in the comment. What what were we missing or what could we do better? And that's as an IT professional and as a board member, I'm looking to see how we can do something better and what was missing. We're
and we
doing good
welcome
there.
welcome all feedback.
Yeah, yeah, good, bad, ugly. We just want to know the truth, and we're going to take it and we're going to action on it and make sure that we do something better next time. You know, I think that's pretty. Is everybody? It looks like everybody's in now. Yeah. So the next thing,
Amen.
we're going to move on to and even talk about a little bit was if we had any questions out there from the community. If you guys had anything, we're happy to answer them and see what's going on. And let's see if there's any questions in there. Trying to find it here now. Q&A. There we
Yes,
go.
so is that in the webinar chat? Is it that we want to see people put some questions?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you can put those in the webinar chat or the Q&A, wherever it is.
Oh, there you go. We
Well,
got one. So
yeah,
we got one from Jim here. How big is
yeah,
the Elevate community now? So I think if I remember rightly, and Anne can correct me if I'm wrong, it's 24,000 registered members with
yeah,
about I think it's about 10,000 active, roughly.
You're
yeah.
really close, Ian. Yeah, we're
As
we're
in,
over 20,000 members. We actually are approaching over 27,000 members from this year, so that's really exciting, with
yeah,
over 11,000 active. So we do monitor activity. It's a free community. We understand people come and go, but we know there's a lot of opportunity out there to keep growing. So we appreciate you all.
So almost right. So I get half a credit, do
You're
I?
you're
yeah,
very close, half a credit.
yeah, yeah. You
And
would have did better than me. I would have been too high. So it's always,
We
And
we we went.
I did see a couple questions come in if you all want me to prompt those. I saw one question come in, um, and this might tie to what you were saying around expansion, but one of the questions is, what are the plans for continued growth and development of the community? Would you all like to speak about that?
Yeah.
I think we kind of highlighted some of those before, really, was more in-person events. We really want to connect with users. Like we did a London kind of drop-in session, for want of a better way of putting it, a London event, and we'd really like to do more of those kind of sort of smaller local events and things like that to really kind of connect with people. So does that does that answer the question, or do
Yeah.
you want to elaborate more?
Yeah.
Keith, anything you
And
want to add to that? Otherwise, I can go to the
yeah,
next question. But I
yeah,
agree.
no,
I
I
know
think,
you all touched on that already.
yeah, it's always amazing to see all of the events we do and the in-person ones. I think the biggest thing I enjoy out of it and I see is, where we have been, we continue to grow. We continue to get more people each year. And so I think that's one of the big highlights I have, and it helps us focus on how we go to more parts of things. And this year with going to Ignite, which was a non-Dell thing, I think it gave us that confidence to start to say, hey, how do we go to more non-traditional events that we wouldn't be at? Like, being at Dell Technology User Forum is normal for us. Being at Dell World is normal for us. Ignite is not as normal, but now we're really starting to figure that out and how to do that.
Yeah, and we also did we was at Nutanix this year as well. So
Yeah,
we've expanded to include sort of other hypervisors and things like that. So yeah.
yeah. And Red Hat too. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I know we had a couple members there, or we know we did a
Yeah.
big webinar on it. I remember reading about it.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
yeah,
Well, this is a big question for you all that I'm sure you could talk about for a long time, and our members may have some opinions about. How do you think AI is going to impact the industry and Dell in the coming years? Keith,
Uh,
any thoughts you want to start with, or Ian, you want to start?
uh, I'll let you go there, Ian, or I'll start this time. I'll start this time. Well, you know what? AI is such a big hot topic on there, and even my own company is talking so much about them, and so like, how do you use it? Where do you go? And I think you can do a lot of things with Dell that are AI driven. I know I just taught they have so many of their professional services team that can help you learn and do parts of AI. It's going to be a great thing. Dell continues to drive into AI. That seems to be their focus. The AI factory is something that they never seem to talk about, but I think it's just going to be ingrained in every part of we do of Dell's product suites, from the earbuds I'm wearing to the laptop I'm doing. It's going to be there for everything now. Ian, any thoughts there now?
yeah, I think the as I've as we've as I've gone through this year, really, I'm using AI more and more in my everyday work, from building sort of pictures for presentations to actually helping sort of wordsmith those presentations. And I think from a user perspective, like the way you go about things that would have taken you a long time before, you're actually using like an AI assistant, if you like, to help you do the hard stuff. And then on the infrastructure side of things, I think we're gonna you know, companies really need to find that first their use cases before they sort of go both feet into deploying an AI factory. But I think once you've got a use case, and then you just need to decide, which way do you go? Do you go sort of public, private? And I think we'll see more private AI solutions sort of starting to land when people have defined those use cases and perhaps understood the costs and things like that. Um, and then putting AI in the right place. I think it's going to generate a significant amount of change in people's data centers. AI requires a significant amount of sort of power and cooling and things like that. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes in people's data centers as they start to maybe deploy AI factories to meet those business use cases.
Yeah, it's always changing, and I think that's the part that I love about our industry is every year or two we seem to reinvent how we do things, and it seems to be a new way of doing things, and it makes it exciting. And I look at AI, team members are now doing things and researching things so much quicker of how to get the answer they need. There's no longer having to spend time, okay, how do we do this and that? What command am I looking for? It's at your fingertips now. So that's where I think it's going to help the end user community and my end users become stronger every day.
These are great insights. Thank you both. I have a couple more questions that have come in, but if anyone else has questions for Keith or Ian, please send through the chat or Q&A. This question is, cloud adoption continues to grow. What percentage of companies do you estimate will shift back to on-prem during rising costs?
So I think every company's at a different point in their sort of their journey. So either some people went all in sort of public cloud and they're now bringing it back. You had other companies that were perhaps slower. So I think every company is perhaps on a different point of that path, if that makes sense. So when I think about what we've done, we've really gone with a hybrid approach from day one. So there'll be times where private cloud makes sense. There'll be times where public cloud makes sense, and I think there'll be a preference. There'll always be a preference one way or the other, and I just see those preferences maybe changing depending on the use case and things like that.
Yeah.
Keith, any thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah. For my company, like, we were very not cloud adoption for a very long time because we had to keep everything there. Our plants need data right there for them. And I think one of the biggest changes that will force more and more people down off the cloud, or at least to a very private cloud, is having that AI workload closer to the edge, being pushed further out. Like, for us, we're always constantly, where do we put this workload to get that response? And how do we optimize our bandwidth now? And how do we keep things moving? So I find my AI started all off in my server in the server room, but now I'm finding I keep pushing it off now into other devices out closer to the edge. So I think that will also help push that pull from the cloud to more on-prem again. And for me, it's a comfort zone. I'm not as good at the cloud as I'd like to admit, but that's what we got other team members for on my team to take care of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just about balance, right? It's about finding the balance for whatever company you're in. Is it a cost constraint that means you're bringing it back on prem? Is it a capability? What is that? And you can only really answer on a per company basis, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, it always comes back to how do you fit this into, every company has that different constraints, that different budget, and even the different needs of the company. Some companies, there is no warehouse, it's all remote workforce. So what would you need a server room for?
yeah,
There's so many variables, but that's the great thing of the community, that we can talk to so many different people and get so many 20, 24,000, plus members telling us what they do and talking about it.
yeah.
Thank you. We're getting some more questions. I have a couple more that came in. For you two, this past year, like reflecting on 2025, what would you each say are your biggest lessons learned in your roles?
Mhm.
I
Do you
know.
want to take that? Do you want to take
I
that
was
first,
gonna
It's
Keith?
a
say.
good one.
Oh yeah, sure. So for me, the biggest lesson learned again is even not even on the technology side, but more even the professional side, is always, how do I take a step back and look at my long-term roadmap to make sure that both the people with my department are going to have what they need to do what they're going to need 2 and 3 years from now. But then at the same time, what technology do you help deploy to make sure that my department will get it, but we can also provide the outside departments what they are. We've really had to shift how we think of technology so many times that how do you create that standard and what do you do? And I spend a lot of time talking about that with my team. Like what are we going to need a year from now and what are we going to do? So really for me, it's that professional growth and that's talking to other people too and they're gaining their experience and how they went through things to make that decision. We still look at it every day.
I
Yeah.
think I think to more of a technology one. I think this year's been an interesting year for us. Certainly, we've completed you know a consolidation of our environments into VCF. So we're a Broadcom customer still, and I think and a big VxRail customer. And I think, one of the things that's certainly sort of happening in the latter part of this year is that what is the strategy going forward? And I think, it does make it a little bit exciting, I guess, the changes in the industry and things like that, and it gets us to look at new technology and things like that. So yeah, kind of looking forward, I guess, into 26 to see how we maybe adapt what we're doing to be a bit more, maybe agnostic, maybe stay VxRail, maybe not, but yeah, it's biggest success this year has been, removing a lot of legacy for our environment, and then but just when I think I could put my feet up, there's more things to be doing. So
Yeah. This year was a big year. Windows 10, VxRail, Broadcom. It made every decision exciting and a little unknown of what was the best answer to be. But it's been one of those fun years where there's always something to do. And I agree that there's always some legacy technology that you got that you forgot about that
yeah,
I did 5 years ago, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess we should address that.
yeah. Yeah, it's always getting legacy in the front of your mind, making sure that you're keeping on top of it is always a challenge.
Those were great insights and a good reflection of this past year. I do have another question that came through. This is containers have been a huge talk for the past few years. Have you seen a large growth? Have you seen a large growth continued now in this area or any return to full infrastructure as a service?
So we see a lot of growth in our at NatWest around containers. We are pushing a more containerized approach to things. So we've seen a lot of growth in things like OpenShift, and we also use Tanzu. Um, so those platforms are continuing to grow for us, and we should see a continued growth into 2026 as we start to meet more and more use cases. So we are seeing a lot of movement towards more containerized solutions rather than that traditional sort of IaaS deployment pattern.
Yeah, same with us. We have started to use containers a lot more. We're still evaluating. Ian, I guess you're a lot further along the journey, which will be a good conversation next time we're in person in January here now to talk about, because we're looking at the same thing. Do we go down the Tanzu route? Do we go down the OpenShift route? Like, we're playing with both, and which is going to be the long-term fit for us. We constantly are evaluating that, and we got to figure out the choice next year.
There's certainly a lot of choice at the moment, I'd
Yeah,
say, in the container
yeah,
space.
yeah.
Well, Ian and Keith, that was the last question to come through, but I'll do one more prompt if anyone else has questions to add in, or Keith or Ian, anything else you want to touch on before we start to wrap things up?
Nothing in particular. Just thanks everyone for their time and listening to myself and Keith. Really,
Yeah.
you've
And for
stuck
me,
through us for 33 minutes.
yeah. And I just wanted to thank everybody for coming and attending any webinar this year or any blog post or anything that we've done. You know, it every time you go and read things or comment or help us, it helps us grow as a community and helps us engage more and more. And I just wanted to wish everybody happy holidays because we're right here right now and it's an exciting time for everybody. And thanks again for all the time. And, thanks Anne and the team for helping to organize this and Ian for taking time because I know it's a little later in the day for you.
Yes, thank you all. Appreciate Keith and Ian for you two leading today's discussion. And while we close out, I just wanted to plug a couple reminders. I know the member dashboard came up today, so if you haven't logged in and updated your dashboard, please do so. This is where you can choose your areas of interest, updating your profile, your upcoming events that you are registered for. So please make sure to do that. And also, I wanted to share a plug for our emails. Please check your spam filters, mark us as safe. That way you can make sure to be in the loop and in the know on all things Elevate. And of course, follow us on LinkedIn. That's another great tool to stay looped into all things. But I wanted to say a special thank you to our board, all of our partners that support Elevate, and of course, especially Dell Technologies. So on behalf of our entire team, wishing you all a wonderful holiday season. So thank you and have a good day.